We are live, and I didn't even put up here who we are and what we're here for. we are. This is Impromptu, and we are host and co-host. This is Pastor Norman, my co-host, and I am Tony Sawyer. Who normally I'm accompanied by my husband Clifton, but he is resting today, so it's going to be Pastor Norman and myself, which I'm thrilled to have Pastor Norman for a conversation. And we already started chatting. So, that's what we do. And so hopefully you guys who tune in will get something out of what we talk about today. Of course, like I've already said, we are two pastors on the journey of self-realization. And so you guys get to share in on our discoveries as we talk it out. And every week it's like we have something new we've discovered, something new. And Pastor Norman and I were sharing a little bit about that just a minute ago. But before we do that, we're going to just kind of put this back up here so we can remind ourselves of what we were chatting about. On Sunday and Tuesday of this week, my husband and I did a lesson on the difference between religion and spirituality. And if you read from the bottom up, the not the last statement, but the one right above it, where it says religion and then spirituality. And Linda Langdon just popped in. Hey, Linda.
Linda.
Linda. Hey, Linda. Linda, you didn't hear us, but Pastor Star is taking a break today. He's resting in. So it's going to be me and Pastor Norman and you. Oh my gosh, you could be the third wheel and give us some good comments. Anyway, it says religion feels like being a single drop in the ocean, and spirituality feels like being the entire ocean in a single drop. That's a powerful statement, isn't it?
Very, very, very powerful, which encourages us to understand that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
and the
Exactly.
more we talk about oneness, and that's the thing that kind of excites me to realize that for those that are on this journey to awakening to spirituality or understanding what spirit is, and we're all part of the same whole, we're the sum total of something. It really encourages me to understand that even though we may be different in some areas of our physical existence, but
Mm-hmm.
we're still part of a bigger picture. So it shows me how I need everyone that is actually around me,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
connected to them. We may not actually see it or even see the needs, but there is a need there somewhere, and so it keeps you on this journey of self discovery.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. And Kathy just popped in. Yes, we received your cash app, sweetheart. We sure did. Thank you so much. I hope you received my response back as well. It was just enough to let you know that we did get it and that we appreciated it. But yeah, and so Pastor's taking a rest today. So it'll be Pastor Norman and myself and you guys. Um, so so dealing with religion versus spirituality, and the two of us, we've always we're always confronted with now the things that we have discovered, the truth that we've discovered, how it is changing how we do things
Hmm.
as pastors. It's changed how we do things.
Hmm.
Um, some people were able in our congregation are able to get with it and roll with it. Some were not. And
Hmm.
I go back to the thing that happened at Lakewood a couple of weeks ago with the shooting and all, and
Hmm.
how that a lot of people are angry with Joel Osteen, not only because he isn't being judgmental.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it's like there, and I won't say all of the church because the entire church is all of the churches don't think the way we did in our circles. but there is a sect of Christianity that is very, very judgmental. In fact, you mentioned one pastor that's on YouTube, and it's really
Mhm.
judgmental. He's
Very.
fighting everybody. And in fact, I said to my husband the other day, what would he preach if he didn't mess with that something everybody else was doing? What would he have
Exactly.
to say? What would he have to say
Mhm.
if he
And
wasn't
that's what's
fighting?
and I noticed that. I'm glad you said it because I noticed that that is the one thing that is increasing his popularity. Even though he's banned from
Mhm,
different gatherings, and some people don't even want
mhm,
him to come in their different countries and stuff like that.
mhm,
But
mhm, mhm.
even with that, his popularity is increasing, and he's very aware of that.
Oh
So
yes, yes.
so to me, I don't think he really even want to make that shift. He wants to stay very controversial. And so
Mhm,
that feeds into this present nature of humanity. We are more drawn to dramatics and drama and so forth
mhm,
than, like,
mhm.
I always said it'd be kind of hard for me and my wife to have a reality show that people will be excited about because we don't have a whole lot of foolish stuff going on. You see
Yeah,
what I'm
which would be totally. The dad and I would have a great reality show
saying?
because we're always doing crazy things. We're always into something. But you're right, and so I looked at him, and that's why I brought up what happened at Lakewood in Texas with Pastor Joel Osteen. A lot of a lot of people who have been conditioned with judgments are angry at him.
Hmm.
They're angry at him for not being judgmental, and so it's a I want to. I say this too, Pastor Norman. I do believe that in the spiritual awakening, the last thing to die in a preacher, the last thing to be transcended in a preacher is judgment,
Hmm.
because they're in our circle, the sect that we were involved with.
Hmm.
It was very important that you lived right, and we had our own checklist for what that meant. You live
Hmm.
right. Uh, you we were holy, and we had our checklist for what that was, what that is rather. And so now, having having no judgments and including everybody and embracing all, no matter what their beliefs are, which is what that spirituality said, that that Healy said
Hmm.
religion, a third from the top down, says religion separates people who have different beliefs.
Hmm.
Spirituality unites people regardless of their beliefs.
Exactly. 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 And it baffles me even with that statement. Paul makes a statement that, we all receive in part. And so whatever insight or revelation that we come to, we now believe strongly in that, but someone may not have had that experience. You see what I'm saying? Someone
Yeah,
may not have, and I like to use the terminology divine download. All right. They may not have received that as of yet.
yeah.
So again, you may receive something, I may receive something. And to me, I see it as pieces of a puzzle that
Mhm.
whatever you have been enlightened, and whatever I have, been given or was revealed to me, we could bring it together. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And
Mhm.
that's the thing that I don't understand. And I'm gonna say with the church and with Christianity, because like I said, one day I am going to share something that is going to destroy the whole concept of what we declare as Christianity, because Christianity was never a religion.
Oh, wait
Jesus.
a minute. Now you said one day. When is that? When is that day? I want to be here to hear it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'm gonna do a series on it of doing my broadcasts and stuff. I keep mentioning it to the people because I hear it come up a lot. I hear it come
Okay.
up a lot, and it makes me cringe because, again, like I share with many people, the first time, according to Scripture or the Bible, that sacred text, that the word
Yeah.
ever comes up is in the book of Acts, and it was a word used as a description. It was never a word or term to use to describe a religion or a certain belief. That was
Yes.
not the use of
Yes.
that word. Dad laughed when I talk about studying the etymology of words and stuff, but that word
Yeah,
was
because he don't know what etymology is.
all right. And so that word was never used to give a description of a religious belief. It was never used. Again, Christ, when we use the word Christ, people always use it in a way of thinking when they say Jesus Christ, they use it in a way, even though they do know that that is not his last name, but that's how we use it. That's how we present it. And
That's
so
yes,
we got to
yes.
understand in the sacred text, the Bible, the word Christ is a description of his being. Christos. It comes from the word Christos,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the anoint, the anointed one, and his anointing. All
Yes,
right, and
yes.
and so when we hear the word Christian, that's first mentioned in the book of Acts when the apostles were in Antioch and they were sharing the gospel and they were doing great feats. People was being
Mm-hmm.
healed. They witnessed miracles and so forth. That's when the people there said that they were Christians because the only reason why they said they are Christians because they were being Christ-like. They were doing
Yes,
exactly what Jesus was doing. That's all
yes,
that was. So it was never
yes.
intended to be a religion. So we took it and then
And
we
maybe
twisted and added so many things to it, and it never was about religion. It was about a word to you to describe our identity or our oneness with God. That's what the word was used for.
so. So you just brought up another point, and I like what Linda said. She said you have to think you're pretty special to judge others in the sense of being better than them. Yes, you're
Mhm.
right. But you brought up a point here. So when those people, spiritual sages, gurus, whatever you want to call them, come along like Jesus, and there were many, many more that came before Jesus, and
Mhm.
some that have come after. Uh, they came with a message and a presence that rallied people together in unity. And it made such an impact that when they crossed over and passed, the people took what they did and what they said and made a religion out of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because they didn't come as a religion. They didn't come bringing a religion. But
Mhm.
the ones who came behind the founders are the ones who made it a religion.
Exactly.
I use this as an example. I know when Pastor and I were in the brick and mortar, that's the way he would say it, the brick and mortar. We had a lot of people that would frequent our services, and they often in their conversation would say, "Your teaching." Because of your teaching.
Mhm.
So it's like they've taken things that we've said and they've camped on them.
Uh-huh.
And because they camped on those particular sayings or things we've done, they in essence, if they don't listen to anyone else about and follow anyone else, they have made a religion based on us. And so
Exactly.
it's easy to do. It is so easy to do. I'll go so far as to say there are many people we've met. My husband and I have met in the last 3 to 4 years when we did the conference with Lisa Natoli and Bill Free, which was an international stage, a platform. And they're a spiritual community. It's not a religious community, it's a spiritual community. But dare I say that those who studied the Course in Miracles, some of them have made that a religion.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it's so easy for us to do that. But if I confine myself to a set of tenets or a set of beliefs, even one that has helped me, then I have then confined myself to a limited evolution
Mhm.
because I'm excluding everything else. because I'm
Exactly.
holding close to that. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes
And
sense.
it does make sense. And like I said, and I love when y'all use the word guru. Um, and I'm making reference to Jesus. All right.
Mhm, mhm.
It One of the things that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7, he told us to judge not. He
Yes.
told us that. All
Yes.
right. And see, that's what people don't understand. Jesus never in the gospels, you could go research it or whatever. He never makes any mention of religion. Judaism was the dominant belief at that time, which Pharisees and Sadducees was
Mhm,
part of that,
mhm,
and so
mhm.
forth. And that was his biggest fight. His biggest fight was with the religious community, not
Yes.
the spiritual community, but with the religious
Mhm.
community. And so I I I see where people are misunderstanding words and statements. Like, for example, in my teaching, I've been teaching off the series entitled "If and Then." All right,
Mm,
dealing with
mm,
if and then statement. And
mhm.
so I took them to Deuteronomy 28, where it said, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of God, thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which now this is Moses talk, which I command thee this day." So now, one of the things that I come to realize when we see the word commandment in the sacred text again, the Bible, many of us are misinterpreting the meaning of that word commandment. It is not
Yes.
a
Yes.
word that God is demanding us to do
Mhm.
something. And that's where we see religion. Religion demands that you either be like me, do it like me, and if you're not doing it like me, whatever, I can't have no part of you. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But God was not demanding anything or trying to rule with a iron fist. The word commandment is actually interpreted as giving wise instructions or directives. That's all that word commandment is. Because just like, for example, what did it look like when Jesus made a statement following, if we love him, we would keep his commandments.
Yeah.
So now, if we approach that with a carnal way of thinking in a system of religion, then we're saying Jesus is saying to us, if you love me, you got to do what I tell you to do. That is not
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
not the nature of God. And so I could think about that dealing with a relationship between a man and a woman.
Mhm.
Okay, what kind of relationship that's going to be if this couple was demanded to be together? All right. They were manipulated and controlled, and it was set up for them to come together and be together as husband and wife. And it had nothing to
Mhm.
do with them loving one another. It was a demand.
Yes. Yes.
There was
Yes.
there will be no level of intimacy whatsoever within that relationship. And then of course it would eventually fall apart because they were forced into the relationship rather than once again being led by the heart or just loving that person, and they made a decision to come together. And that's what people need to understand. God is not demanding and trying to rule us with an iron fist, and it's because of our misinterpretation of words, because we embrace somebody else's ideology rather than going on the journey of discovery for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. When I'm going to ask you this, and don't answer it just yet. But when did you come into the knowing that God is love, not just from scriptural reference? That when did you become aware of the law of love that transcends the law of right and wrong? Don't answer yet. Don't answer yet. Because that's a, and I got something else I wanted to show in a little bit. But Keely said this. She said, I've always felt judgment in church, but not from the pastors, but the congregation. Now,
Yeah, okay.
and
And,
I've had the other way. I felt it from the pastors and not the congregation.
and
So
I understand Keely's statement because that is another trick, another thing that does happen.
mm-hmm,
A
mm-hmm,
lot of times the judgment is not coming from the leader, they're feeling it from the congregation, all because the people in the congregation has now put that man or that woman, that leader, in such a high place that they make whatever they say
Mm-hmm.
Law, that's law. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I give you a good example. I give you a good example. This is gonna be funny. I remember when I would be preaching and so forth and so on. And of course, I don't know what it is about the nature of females, but most not all, but most sacred assemblies, um,
Are
there are
packed
more
with
women,
females.
there are more
Yes.
females,
Yes.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
now I had this experience years ago. It was so funny. I had experience years ago where there were women coming to the church, and my practice was if you're going to join the church as a female, of course, and you're married, I would love to talk to your husband first to see if he's all right because I
That's good
understand
practice. Yes.
he's the priest
Yes.
of the household. So
Yes.
I need to see if this is okay. So then they would come, and so I had a situation where a brother mentioned to me that every time his wife would be home and they get into a certain conversations that is always well, at that time, Bishop said, and so Bishop said this, and Bishop said that, Bishop said that, and so that was angering that gentleman, and so I come to find out, I started investigating that it was
Yeah.
happening in other households as well. It was
Yeah.
always about what Bishop said
Yes.
versus okay, it's not what I say, it's what
Yes.
if you follow the word or whatever, and so the judgment on the husband was coming from the wives based off of them put me in this place like I have a
Mm-hmm.
corner on God and whatever I say is law.
Yeah, yeah,
I know.
and it happened to us too. It happened to us, and it wasn't so much. It was similar to what you're saying, but you know how my husband is very expressive of how he feels about me. I mean, he will tell the world, and he talks it all the time, and it looks from people looking on. Wow, he really loves this woman, and he's good to her, and he is, but they don't see what I do with him. They don't see how I express with him, but I don't do it verbally on, in front of everyone else. But occasionally I will because I know he likes that and that makes him feel good. But a lot of them would go home and like you said, they'd go home and they would say, well, Pastor Sawyer does his wife like this. And they would literally, the men would get mad, literally mad because they didn't want to be compared to the pastor. They didn't want that. And so love, you said it, love is never demanding for one. But I asked you the question, when do you think you came into the understanding that, and we know God is love based on the scriptures. We've read that God is love. But when did that law of love start taking precedence in your life over right and wrong?
You want me to answer now?
Yes.
Okay. It's funny that you said that because I hinted on that even last night on the broadcast. Um, I know for a while I was always aware of it because I always had these struggles of certain things that was going on within the church culture and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. But it really hit me, and I really came into the full understanding and awareness when the pandemic happened.
Okay. Okay.
And I believe
Mhm.
that was because I didn't have to fulfill these expectations that going to the brick and mortar and preaching and teaching and doing all the religious things that we do and so forth. I came to the place where and you shared it, and it was funny you shared it, and then at the same time I had the experience with God sharing with that with me when I woke up one morning based off of if he had stripped me from everything, literally, if I didn't have
Mhm.
the woman that I'm married to, if I wasn't a pastor of Bowl Ministries International, if I didn't have the money or the cars, whatever, who would I be?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
when I begin to get a clear understanding. And y'all been teaching it for years concerning no judgments, because sometimes we are guilty of putting judgment on ourselves. And
Yes, we are.
that I realized I was doing that to myself for years, not even knowing, not even aware, because I was so trying to fulfill the expectations of religion, that box that we supposed to
Yeah.
operate in and never come out of it. I
Yeah.
love what y'all said Tuesday night about coloring outside of the lines. And
Mm-hmm.
so what helped me when I settled down and had that opportunity of not fulfilling other people's expectations during the time of the pandemic, that's when the Lord revealed to me concerning what the whole main thread, the main, not just in the Bible, not in just Christianity, but it say
Mm-hmm.
it's always been about love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I see we don't have the many people don't have the true insight of what love is.
And that's, I think that's the key. And Keely says not only were they judgmental, she was doing it too.
Mm,
And I admit that that's like I said, I think that's the last thing to go in your self realization is the judgments. Well, for us, I won't say for everyone, but I know that knowing, coming to the understanding of what love is a real revelation. It's a real revelation. One of the things, now Carlton Pearson had his own
mhm,
uh, aha moment when he looked at all of the kids in the third world countries that had never heard the gospel, and yet those people die. Are they automatically going to hell? So he started questioning from that standpoint. I had an aha moment when I just sat one day and I realized, and the Lord gave me an example. If you were outside of your house and every door was shut, every door was shut but not locked, and your children was inside and a fire broke out,
mm,
would you tell that child, in order for that child to be saved, to go to one particular door? Or would you tell that child to find whatever door they could find to get out? And I realized at that moment that there was no longer one way.
exactly.
There is no such thing as one way.
Hmm.
If God is love, as the scriptures have said, and God doesn't want us to be harmed and cares about us, it would not set only one way for us to have that deliverance and that salvation.
Hmm.
There would be so many ways to get out of that house
Hmm.
for that child to be saved. There would be
Exactly.
so many doors, exits, and entrances, windows, all kinds of openings for that child, and the person outside, the parent outside, would not care which one it came out of.
Hmm.
So I
Exactly.
began, I began to look at it and I said, okay, and it came from my contemplation. I began to look at it and said, why would God even have it set where it's only one way?
Mm-mm. He won.
It couldn't reach everyone with one way.
Mm-mm.
We are so diverse. And some of us are born in countries where there's no Christianity.
Hmm.
There's no Christianity.
Exactly.
They never heard, some of them never heard Jesus, the word Jesus. They don't even know. So I
Hmm.
mean, to be that narrow minded, I realized that love would not be like that.
Nope.
Love gives you every option,
Hmm.
to be free.
Exactly.
And it's the law of love that we live by now. It's the law of love, and not right and wrong.
And that's and again, Jesus being, our guru, he makes that statement. He
Yes,
told the greatest
yes,
commandment is to love one another. You see what
yes.
I'm saying? And I love it because I want people to even get a clear understanding. He said, again, by the love we show one another, then the world should know that we are his disciples. So now we have to understand what that word disciple mean, and that word disciple is not confined to religion. That's what
Yes.
we got to understand. He wasn't again introducing a religion. He introduced love. God is love. And so,
Yes.
like you just said, we are so diverse. We come from different backgrounds. We were raised in different environments. So the way I come to become aware of God may be different than the way you
Mhm.
became aware of God. All of our
Mhm.
journeys now, we know that he's the the destination. I'll say that, the focal
Yes.
point.
Yes.
But
Yes.
to
Yes.
get to him, there are various paths and journeys that people don't understand. And so I always tell people all the time, you cannot judge a person because you don't know what journey or what path they on.
That's right.
You
That's
don't
right.
know that. You cannot judge. You don't. A lot of these things, paths and journeys that we're taking was preordained for a reason.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you don't know what the outcome going to be. You have to let that person continue on that journey and that path.
Yes.
Just
Now,
love them will allow them to do so.
yeah. Now, before I don't know if I want to say this, but let's see. There were always the Jewish synagogue, even before Jesus came along.
Hmm.
But there was not church. And if you go back and you look at what the scripture said, church was formed or created when the crowds grew so big
Hmm.
that they had to control the masses.
Hmm.
They came up with all kinds of offices, deacons and bishops,
Hmm.
and all of those things that make up what we call church now, when we look at it from an institutional standpoint. Then there were the the giftings that were men and women that were the apostles and the prophets and the pastors and teachers and evangelists. Those were the giftings of men that taught the church or inspired the church. But church didn't exist when Jesus came along.
Hmm.
So our and even the early church didn't look anything like the church now.
Oh, definitely not.
No. So we've created this thing called church.
Hmm.
We created it. It was simply a spiritual community. But in order to have control of the masses, because it kept growing, they had to set certain things in place. Had to have elders, and they had to have deacons, and they had all those things. Then it gradually moved into let's have a particular place we all meet. Because
Hmm.
they were originally meeting in houses, they were meeting in each other's homes
Exactly.
and cell groups. So there and it was also in the early church, there was only one church in each city. Now
Exactly.
we got them on every corner.
Within walking distance from one another.
Exactly, exactly. So people pick and choose like they do restaurants. So it has totally been removed from what its original purpose is
And
and
that's what I
was.
was going to say, because when it's first mentioned in scripture, it is in Matthew chapter 16 when Jesus makes a statement, upon this rock I will build my church. He was not
Yes.
talking about no organization, no
Mhm.
brick and mortar, he that was not the meaning of the word. And that's what happens.
Right, right.
We have lost the meaning of that word and the insight of it, because he was making reference to a people, all right, and what we would do in the earth out of oneness with him, because again, he makes that statement after he asked the question, now whom do you say that I am? And of course we know the story. Peter said, thou art the Christ the Son, and he said, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. So
Not
it comes
revealed it.
point of revelation. That's what people don't
Yeah.
say. It came at a point after revelation. And so one of the things that like when you mentioned about we have churches, it was funny as I'm looking for another location, there was a building that was vacant. but right across the street, there's a church, and right within walking distance, there's another church. I'm like, why would I need to put you said, as if I got something to offer more than they have to offer. See, that's the thing that I'm noticing. It is still yet
Yeah,
this
yeah.
place of
Oh,
competing with one another, and that
mm,
has never been
mm.
the intention. And so we're losing our effectiveness to help or assist people on their journey of awareness because we're saying, hey, come over here. We got it right. Who told you you had it right?
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Yep.
But you remember Jesus said this, he said, where two or more are gathered, there am I in the midst. So Jesus was not trying to build a religion. He was not trying to build a church.
Hmm.
And when he said, upon this rock, my church is built upon this rock, he was not talking about brick and mortar. He was not talking about elders and deacons, and he wasn't talking about all that.
Nope.
Um, I and I think and that takes me back to the fact that if we are indeed in our essence what Christ is, then we should have the same mind that Jesus had. In the same thought patterns floating through his brain should be the thought patterns that are floating through our brain. The mind of Christ, which has no division in it, and definitely walked by the law of love, did not walk by the law of right and wrong. That had nothing to do with what Jesus was saying. That's why when the men wanted to stone the woman, the prostitute, and Jesus said, well, which one of you gonna cast the first stone? Because most of them had laid with her.
Exactly. Exactly. How y'all go? All y'all gonna find this woman? It, come on, if you wasn't laying with her, you see what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
So
see, and that's another thing. Because now, again, you just brought a perfect example to show where the love of God trumps religion. All right.
mhm.
Because
Yeah, I
remember,
like that, Pastor Norman. I
when
like
they
that.
when they brought the woman to Jesus, they said, according to the laws of Moses. So see how they were, this is it. Moses gave it to us. This is law. This is
Mhm,
what we
mhm,
believe. And so we
mhm,
got to do exactly what was presented to us by
mhm.
Moses. All right.
Yeah,
Said,
yes,
according to the laws of Moses, this woman is to be stoned.
yeah,
What religion would do, it would have killed her.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. But it's the love of God that saved her. And that's what people don't
Mhm,
understand. So he says again, like you just said, you without sin cast the first stone. All right.
mhm.
Then when he got up again, all of them was gone. He said, where's your accusers? She said, there is none. He said,
Yes,
I don't accuse you either. All he said to her was, go and sin no more.
yes.
That's all he
Now
said.
yeah, that yes, yes. And now Keely brought up, or is it Linda? Linda's brought up that church and religion has kept women down and made them less than men, and they still do in some places, and that's true. In
Mhm.
fact, this
That's very true.
yes, and in fact, there's this one preacher that Pastor Norman and I are referring to, who's very, very antagonistic, and he's just mean. He's just mean. He
Oh,
has
yes.
he has literally taken women and made them. Uh, his whole congregation is full of women who cannot fix their hair, they cannot wear any makeup, they cannot even come in the church without a hat or a scarf.
Hmm.
He told a little girl 10 years old she couldn't wear braids. And yet the men are in there all fixed up. They've been to the barber shop. They look slick and polished. And the women look like uh, Aunt Jemima on the pancake box. That's what really. And I'm thinking, okay, something's wrong with this picture. Something's wrong with this picture. And that is going on in a lot of places. Unfortunately, religion has done that. But if you go back in the book of Acts, you will find Priscilla and Aquila, who were very instrumental in the church. You will find in the Old Testament Rahab, who was a prostitute, that God used her to deliver Israel. I mean, it's so many scriptural references. Even if the narrative is not true, there's scriptures that validate it. So
Exactly.
it's just, and then a lot of people, as you said, Pastor Norman, don't realize King James was gay.
They
and,
don't they
and
they do not
they
understand.
wanted to make sure the women didn't get nowhere with, but it's just, it is what it is.
And
And
see, I'm glad you mentioned that part too, because referring to that particular pastor again, okay. Because see, one of the things I don't like what he says is the individuals that he challenges to come to him. Okay, first of all, I need to see you go to where they are. I want you to go to their community. Why we got to come to you? Because see, in
mhm,
your mind, you
mhm.
think you are right. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, very judgmental, very condescending. All right.
But he lives by the law of right and wrong.
Exactly.
That's the
But I'm,
only
I'm
thing
gonna
we
make reference to
know.
that as well in scripture. So the thing that if you know that book so well, then let's talk about the origin of what you believe so strongly in.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? Like you just said, for those that know King James is the one that was behind the King
mm,
James,
mhm,
along with his archbishops and cardinals and stuff who came together and rewrote
yeah,
the Bible, which they poured out of Catholicism and started uh, the Protestant movement. He went both ways. I say it that way. King James went both ways. All right. So
he
why you
was
not?
AC,
Why,
he was he was ACDC. That's right. That's
exactly.
right.
Why you not
AC.
sharing that? So you're saying what King James out of the book you say with King James who went both ways, and I'm gonna say it on his word. That means he was with men and women. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
and you're taking what he produced and published, and you say this is law and this is the way of God. So
yeah.
why you
So
not?
the law,
So you need to talk about the history of that particular sacred text.
yes. So the law of love is very freeing. It's very freeing. And at the same time constraining. Because I remember the scripture that said, where Paul said, love of God constrains me. It
Mhm,
was the love that he had for God and for life that made his choices different. It wasn't fear, as Keely mentioned before. It was fear. Religion is fear based. It wasn't fear of going to hell or fear of offending God that caused him to make certain choices.
mhm,
It was the love that he had and felt and walked in that dictated how he made those choices.
mhm.
And so the love is so powerful. A loving thought is more powerful than a negative thought.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
it's more powerful. Um, you guys have heard me talk about the little lady that worked in our yard. She still comes to work in our yard. Little frail thing, just as frail as she can be. I've grown really close to her. And she has this condition, a neurological condition. And one day we were standing in the driveway and she was talking to me, and all of a sudden her eyes went shut and she was talking and she wouldn't open her eyes. And she said, I wish I could open my eyes. She
Wow.
couldn't open her eyes. And of course she has tremors and stuff. And so I I just grabbed her and hugged her. And I said, it's okay.
Mhm.
And not a few seconds after that, she opened her eyes. She said,
Wow.
I'm back. So
Wow.
it's the love of God that heals. Jesus was moved by compassion
Mhm.
and healed them all. It's the love of God that heals. It's not I'm the man of God and the woman of God. It's the love of God that heals. It's
Exactly.
It's the love of God that saves. It's the love of God that gives everybody an opening to be saved, not just one way,
Hmm.
not just through one door, but all doors. And so and I wanted to show this, Pastor Norman. You probably remember this because you were the instrument, or you were instrumental in making me write this poem. And I'm gonna read it because I think it's so good. You were at our service, and you were preaching. You were preaching, and this came to me while you were preaching. And it's called Stay the Course. On your way home to your destined place, you must not stop here and dwell. Got to free yourself from the past. Got to leave this self made hell. We're passing through this learning space on our way home where there is bliss. You cannot pitch your tent here or your destiny will be missed. Sometimes the course seems threatening. Home feels far away. And if you get too comfortable here, you will forget, and here you'll have to stay. You must discover the greater one who lives within, who is strengthening you to overcome and revealing that the place you're desperately looking for is right where you're looking from. Stay the course.
Now, that is amazing because I talked about that with someone on yesterday about staying the course. And I remember because I believe I came from Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 6 and 7, where God spoke through Moses and told the children of Israel that it was time for them to get up from where they were, turn and take their journey, because
Yes. Yes.
they had made Mount Moriah their place, their sacred place where they pitched their tent. And the Lord
Mhm,
said, "You've been
mhm,
here too long. This is not where
mhm.
my
Yeah.
plan for you. You were
Yeah.
supposed to arrive in Canaan." And they pitched their
Mhm,
tent at Mount Moriah because that's where they had the experience with God. And see,
mhm.
that's what causes us to become stuck. We have these certain
Yep.
experiences, and then we
Yep.
want to build a memorial off of that
Mhm.
experience and not want to leave. And that was not the destined
Yeah.
place. That was just
Yes.
something that was we were supposed to experience while we were still yet on the journey.
Yes. Yes. And I like what Linda says. And Pastor Norman, I don't remember what your subject was on that day that you preached that sermon, but that's what it said to me.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget. I don't know if anybody else got that during that service, but I got that. I got that. And Linda says, "Thank God we have all eternity, since so many of us take these silly limited side trips to God." Everyone has their journey. Yes, yes, yes. But all
Mhm.
of us end up where we never really left. We never needed saving. Yeah, yeah,
Amen. That's right.
yeah. Where we're looking, what we're looking for is where we're looking from.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's something else that you made statement of reference to what religion deals with, the right and wrong theory. That's
Mhm,
the best way I could say it, the right and wrong theory. All right. So now, because I threw this at somebody the other day, and it was like they didn't even have an answer. They couldn't even answer it. I said, now I want you to go back to the Genesis narrative because we was kind of talking. They was asking me some questions and stuff, and you know me, I love this. I love it whenever
mhm,
I can do it all day long. And I said, now I want you to think about something. I said, now I want you to remember, and this is in Genesis of chapter 3, verse 22, when God made the statement that behold, man has become like us,
mhm.
knowing good and
Good and
evil.
evil. Mhm,
All right. And
mhm.
so, yeah, I said, so now I said, so notice what he said. They became like us. God is making saying us. Now, people could say he's
Yeah,
talking to the Trinity or whatever. That
yeah.
that's your own whatever. I think it was more than the Trinity, to be honest with you.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, but that means Adam and Eve was in a state of
Mhm.
having no knowledge of what is good and what is evil.
Right,
So I
right.
said to them, so now you tell me what state Adam and Eve was operating in before the so-called fall.
There was no guilt. Guilt didn't exist.
They was in a
Guilt
state
didn't
of
exist.
total innocence.
Yes.
Total you are totally innocent when you have no knowledge and no experience of good and evil. Because to you, there is no good and evil
There
in that
was no good
state.
in
There is, and
me.
so now I want people to think about that, and ain't nobody got an answer. So I want them to think about that. If Adam and Eve was in a total state that they had no awareness of what was good and what was evil, they were just existing. They were just being. But
Being, yeah.
now, according to the narrative, they take of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and now God said they're like us.
Well,
No,
and
go
get
ahead.
this, the seed was planted that something was wrong with them. Remember
Exactly.
what I heard this, and I said this before we went live. I heard a spiritual teacher say this, and it just blew my mind. And it's very simplistic, but it's profound at the same time. He says, "There's never been anything wrong with you ever. There has never been anything wrong with you ever. There has never been anything wrong with you ever." And this is what they lost in the garden. The
Exactly.
seed was planted that something's wrong with you, something's lacking. And if we could just accept that there's never been anything wrong with us ever, there would be no temptation to try to grasp and reach and become and all of those things. We would
Just
simply be. We would simply be, as you
yeah, I
said.
was gonna say,
Be.
just be, just live,
And that
just enjoy.
and simply being is, it will automatically move you towards your full potential.
Mm-hmm.
Automatically. Because your desire, your godly desires, the essence, your essential desires, that God essence that's in you has desires for certain things, and it would automatically pull you in that direction, and you would automatically fulfill your potential without knowing ahead of time in your head what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Everything won't be premeditated. It won't be premeditated to do this and do it before you do it, and then do it, and then after you've done it, you do it again, and you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
The premeditation would completely be gone.
It's
We would be completely spontaneous.
and
And
I
I have to admit, I'm at a place in and it's not a very comfortable place, but I'm at a place where it's hard for me to plan, to make
oh,
plans.
don't even say that because I'm dealing with the same thing.
And I'm the kind of person, I used to have a planner. I used to have a planner. Now I might write a to-do list and might get to one or two things on that list, but then it's like I just have to, it's like a it's like a OCD. I just have to have a to-do list. But now I'm realizing my life is more spontaneous. I can just be. And I've heard the Spirit of God say this to me. He says, stop thinking about living and just live.
Oh, I love that. I love
Stop
that.
thinking about it and just live.
Because see, when you think about it, you put up roadblocks that you created the roadblocks that's
Yeah,
stopping you from enjoying or experiencing the abundant life that Jesus
exactly.
came to
Yeah.
present to us.
And I've noticed this too, Pastor Norman, that the more I just be, the more I'm allowed to just be and not think, the more joy I experience. And it's not so much I'm walking around with this bliss on me, but it's like everything brings me joy. I can find I took baby girl with me to the paint store yesterday. I
Uh-oh.
found joy taking baby girl to the paint store in the rain. It was
Wow.
just cool. It was cool watching her watching her in the store, in the Sherwin-Williams store, meeting different people, and having to sit there and wait for a while because they never could match my paint. It was it was the most joyous thing. Where, and so I find joy in every little thing now.
And I'm
It's
glad you said that
wonderful.
because that's something that I'm experiencing. I'm enjoying the simple things more than the
Mhm.
extravagant things. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just like I shared before. I have this place of joy, which I know is coming from inward versus,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
I was explaining to somebody the other day. Matter of fact, it's a couple that's I'm doing their premarital counseling, and the question was presented to me concerning success. What do they consider success? And so each person, I said, each person has to define that for themselves. Because what I see as success for me, which is that state of fulfillment or achieving something that I set out to do, may be different than yours, like that. But we got on the topic of the difference between being happy and being joyful.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. There's a difference.
Yep. Happy is predicated on conditions. If I
Mm-hmm.
have the money, the house, whatever, then I'm happy. But joy is not predicated on anything. It comes from within. And so I
Mm-hmm.
asked the question, I said, I want you to think about something that you bought. And so I said to the young lady, I said, maybe a pair of shoes that I gotta get these shoes, or I gotta get this, or a guy getting a car, whatever. Oh my God, I'm gonna get this. And I said, now I want you to think about it for a moment. When you got that thing that you desired so much and you got it, I want you to feel again when you got it, how you felt.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're talking about how they was all happy and they used the word joyful and stuff like that. So now I'm gonna ask you a question. Did you feel the same way about it 3 years later?
Can you
And
recall that feeling? That's
diminished. So that's why I was trying to get them to understand there is a difference. I'm joyful no matter what, but you happy based off of, oh, I got this new thing, but 3 years later, you don't feel the same way about it. So that happiness about that is now gone. So that's what
mhm,
I'm saying. And
mhm.
so that's why I try to get people to understand we got to get outside of this. And I like to use the phrase this conditional world
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
everything's about conditions.
Yes. Yeah, breaking out of conditions. That's cool. And or having a condition placed before you and finding a way to go to overpower it and go beyond it. Linda says there is beauty in simplicity. Absolutely. I
Yes.
did yard work yesterday hanging with my dog and it was wonderful. That's what I've been doing, Linda. And baby girl got a chance to be a dog. She went outside and she got so dirty I was cutting bushes and I didn't pay any attention. I looked back and she had dug up all of the mulch. She had dug down to the plastic that you put down before the mulch and ripped it in shreds. Her nose was muddy, her feet were muddy, and I said no. And she looked at me like, "What? I'm having fun," and I'm thinking, so she got a chance to be a dog. And she loves it. When I pick up the rake, she gets happy. So
Mhm.
but you also touched on something else about how we manifest our good in this world, and it is by feeling gets the blessing, not thinking.
Exactly.
Feeling gets the blessing. So if I can recall, you talking about the young man, and if they had a pair of shoes and they really liked them, okay, can I recall the feeling?
That's
Can I
good.
recall what it felt like? If
Mm,
I need a pair of shoes, can I recall what it felt like when I had that new pair of shoes? And that feeling, if I can hold that feeling, I get those other pair of shoes.
exactly. Exactly.
So feeling gets the blessing.
Hmm. Yep.
Feeling gets the blessing.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Wow. 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 So,
Look, we gonna take off here. We could talk all day, but look, I missed my hubby. I missed him. He had to rest in
oh, oh,
He had to rest in today. He's been I've been
imagine.
feeling well the last couple of days, and so I got to make sure he gets enough rest. But
Mhm,
I missed him today because he keeps us going. Lord, he keeps us on our toes. I tell
mhm.
you, he'll come out of left field with something, and then he was. But when he says something, it's so good. It's so good.
It is. It is.
Yeah, but he'll be back next week with us, hopefully, and we'll have another great conversation. Yeah, baby girl is look, she was loving it. She's down here now. Pooh Boo, come here. You want to see Linda? Come here. Come here. Come. Come here. She's resting. Come here.
She resting.
She
Uh-oh.
was, she went out. Yes, we went out and ran errands yesterday, and
Hey, baby girl.
she was so tired. She slept all evening. Come on back. Come on back. See, say hey to the people. See,
Hey, baby girl.
the people. Say hey to the people.
Hey, baby girl.
That's baby girl.
You
That's my
remember me?
that's
I
my
used to walk outside.
that's my partner in crime. Look, guys, we're gonna take off here. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. I did. I enjoyed
I
it.
know I did. I
Yes,
definitely did.
yes. We'll see
Yes.
you again next week for Impromptu. And
Mhm.
we bless you. We bless you. And if you want to bless us, you can do that by going to Cash App. Of course, Pastor Norman and I, we would do this for free because we love it.
Yes. 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 Just flat
but
out love it.
but if you have in your heart to want to bless us, then do so. And we thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Thursday at 12:30. And if
Yes.
you can join us on Sunday, if you join us on Sunday, Pastor Norman is on at 9
9 8
on
9
Facebook.
a.m.
That's
Mhm.
Norman Armstrong Ministries on Facebook, right? At
Right.
9 a.m. And then we're following right at 10 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube for Cornerstone Life Center. We look forward to seeing you there and hope you can join us. And we thank you for tuning in today. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Stay aware.
Stay aware. There's nothing wrong with you ever.
That's right.